The Rock needs time, Sasha Banks needs a new deal, and the Cowardly Lion needs courage. Yes, we're off to see the Wizard, but the Wizard is WrestleMania. We're off down the yellow brick road to fight over two separate main events, a night one and a night two, and there are plenty of people vying for the opportunity to face a Roman Reigns, a Seth Rollins, a Rhea Ripley, anyone currently holding a championship belt. I'd take a gun to main event, who wouldn't? The Royal Rumble is around the corner, and that is our first step on the way to WrestleMania, but WrestleMania is not far away. I've got 6 names that we're going to cover here who could well main event WrestleMania. We're going to talk about how they get there, and yes, we will be mentioning a few people who don't necessarily have the highest of odds. But isn't that wrestling though? Don't you want to dream? Don't you want to dream with me about The Rock? Doesn't everyone dream about The Rock anyway? Welcome to PLE Wednesdays, let's talk wrestling. Becky Lynch is the first of 3 horsewomen in this list and the only one from Monday Night Raw. She's already started working with Rhea Ripley, a loss to Nia Jax, essentially steering her out of the conversation in a way that once you're outside of kayfabe, steers you straight back into the conversation. Becky Lynch is unstoppable. She is one of those who absolutely will not quit, and with a book tour coming, with a new contract deal coming up soon, I expect that Becky Lynch is going to get pushed to the absolute top. Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley seems destined to happen, but I do not have Becky Lynch winning the Royal Rumble. You see, with the Elimination Chamber taking place in Australia, a focus will be on Rhea Ripley. There is no question to me that Nia Jax is going to play a huge part in this and really succeed by the direction here. In many ways, Bianca Belair played a similar role when it was Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte a long time ago. We're not heading into a triple threat at WrestleMania. As much as I wouldn't hate it, I do think it'll be Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley. That said, the actual contract deal for Becky Lynch does throw all of that up into the air. If Becky Lynch doesn't sign a new deal, which I think is incredibly unlikely, we could be heading into Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley for WrestleMania, so it's important that the WWE keeps someone in reserve. That said, I think Becky Lynch is going to be winning the Elimination Chamber, Rhea Ripley will be vanquishing Nia Jax quite possibly in the Elimination Chamber main event, and then we'll have the stare down to end all stare downs between Becky and Rhea. As for main eventing WrestleMania, I think it was a lot more likely before the return of Chicago's favourite son, but what I will say is that Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley has every opportunity to be a huge WrestleMania match. Easily one of the first choices to top night 1, and I cannot wait to watch this one. Next up, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns has been rumoured since this time last year, when Cody Rhodes versus The Rock 1 was already starting to be built up to. That was not a win for Cody Rhodes, and the story, which he'd been pushing to conclude, has not yet finished. That does not mean that the story will not be finishing though. While Cody Rhodes is one of 2 AEW alumni in this list, AEW alumni have typically been treated extremely well in the WWE. Lexis King is doing very well in NXT, but you only have to look at the main roster. Look at a Cody Rhodes, look at a CM Punk, look at a Jade Cargill after the Royal Rumble, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The Rock is the biggest thing standing in the way of Cody Rhodes, and in many ways that's fitting in both ways. Cody Rhodes would stand behind The Rock and be completely invisible, to be fair. But while I do see Cody's day coming, and I do think he actually will main event WrestleMania, it will be night 2 against Roman Reigns, and I don't see him winning the Royal Rumble. It seems the perfect opportunity to build him as someone who can and come very close to winning the Royal Rumble, but again, I think the Elimination Chamber is the most obvious choice when it comes to Cody. Cody is one of those that is such a big name and such a well-established top-level talent. Any big win will take him into the stratosphere. It almost feels like he lost at last year's WrestleMania as a way of keeping him at a more manageable level, as a way of saying to the fans, we know he's the guy, you know he's the guy, but we're going to be careful with this. I think this is Cody's year, but there are plenty of people in his way first. Next up, The Rock. We talked about The Rock with Cody Rhodes. We also kind of have to mention The Rock and CM Punk. Those two have history at the Royal Rumble and championship changes, but if The Rock is going to finally have his match with Roman Reigns, there's a number of different ways to get there. Firstly, yes, I think a landing in the Royal Rumble, winning it all, would be a perfect way to re-establish The Rock and give us several months to build towards The Rock versus Roman Reigns. But The Rock's schedule doesn't necessarily allow him to work with WWE for 2+ months, and doesn't necessarily guarantee that he'll be at the Royal Rumble. For me, the best way to do this is to have The Rock not main event, but to come very close by opening WrestleMania. The biggest matches of any event are the last and the first match of the night, something that Brock Lesnar has been taking advantage of for a long time. And it's also a trick that Roman Reigns learned from his former opponent. The battle for the tribal chiefdom comes down at this point to Jimmy Uso, to Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, and The Rock. Jey has already lost, Jimmy has, let's face it, no chance, and while Solo certainly has every opportunity in the future, he's not there yet. That leaves The Rock as someone who can come in, open WrestleMania, guarantee huge amounts of viewership, guarantee all eyes on WrestleMania, and guarantee a huge overlay into whatever match comes next. I don't see The Rock winning, but I definitely think this year we're closer than we've been for a very long time. Next up, Bayley. Regulars on the channel will know that I have Bayley winning the Women's Royal Rumble, and I see no reason to change my mind. The destruction of Damage Control might seem very on the nose. It might seem almost too obvious that Bayley will be winning the Royal Rumble, but Damage Control have promised to help her win the Rumble, and they seem completely uninterested in doing so. Bayley has one plan, Damage Control have another, and there are plenty of other people who could be involved in this, including the aforementioned Becky Lynch and the soon-to-be-mentioned Sasha Banks. Bayley is one of those who seems to have been waiting for her opportunity forever, but when they come strong. We look at the time when she cut her hair and became the SmackDown champion, held that championship for basically a year and a half with a brief interlude in the middle. Bayley is a big game player, one of the biggest names on the women's roster and one of the most reliable. Under Vince McMahon, Bayley is one of those that would be largely forgotten about as too reliable. Under Triple H, you bet your life he's been waiting for the right moment. Bayley's given a lot. She's had the Sami Zayn treatment for the last year or so. I think now's the time to pull that switch and make this year, 2024, the year of Bayley. Damage Control won't just be fine, they'll be set up for the next year if Bayley becomes a champion. As for the main event, it's very hard to say. I think a very strong argument can be made for Bayley versus Io Sky. I'd be very excited by this as a general prospect. That said, I do think this will be the opener for night 2. Bayley versus Io Sky with a new champion, making sure everyone feels the vibes, feels the jam, feels the love. Because you know that throughout her entire heel run, respect for Bayley has shot through the roof. As a fan, I've just been waiting for WWE to tell me it's time now to start screaming. Next up, Sasha Banks. You'll note that I refer to Sasha Banks and not Mercedes Money. The main reason for this is that the WWE, with any offers they've made to Mercedes Money, want the Sasha Banks name, or at least that's what's been explained to me. With Sasha Banks, if she does return to WWE, a Royal Rumble win could well be part of it, though I do feel she'd step out of the way for Bayley. A best friend is a best friend still. That said, while this is huge across the rumour mill, I don't think it's in any way likely. I'm confident Sasha Banks under Mercedes Money will be going to AEW. I'm confident the deal, however massive it was from the WWE, will not be enough to turn Mercedes' head because she has essentially bigger dreams. The Royal Rumble win, even a main event of WrestleMania, might be too small for Mercedes Money now. She's moving into business, she's moving into Hollywood, she's going to become a star so global that the WWE will be ruining its mistakes forever, giving her the opportunity to walk out. That's the plan, and in many ways I suspect that'll be the reality. Finally, the most obvious, CM Punk. If we're talking WrestleMania main events, here's someone who's been waiting for more than a decade for his opportunity to take that spot. And finally, this time round, he comes into a WrestleMania with 2 separate nights, which means he can have and also not have the main event of WrestleMania. Now, CM Punk is a huge name. Going into a Royal Rumble, he won't guarantee extra viewership, even just from the fans that did follow him to AEW and followed him away since. I do think CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble is almost guaranteed at this point. All of the heat on Cody Rhodes has started to melt away because of it, but that takes the heat off Cody Rhodes in a good way. CM Punk winning gives you confirmation, not just of an AEW returnee, but also that they're going to be treating CM Punk very differently this time around. His work with Drew McIntyre feels to me like confirmation that CM Punk is going to be at the top and only at the top. And honestly, with a name like CM Punk, I can't blame them for doing so. If you want to talk main event, the story writes itself. In no way so far has he even engaged with Roman Reigns. He's made it clear his efforts are on Raw and with Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins and CM Punk have plenty of history to draw upon. We also have Damian Priest and the briefcase, which so far CM Punk hasn't engaged with, but the moment I'm sure will be coming. Judgment Day seemed to be being saved for after WrestleMania for CM Punk. As regards Roman, the opportunity would still be there if CM Punk won the Royal Rumble. The reason we're seeing promos and efforts with Seth Rollins is to establish context, to make it look like CM Punk is not a coward for going for Seth Rollins instead of Roman Reigns, a problem that the WWE have had in the past. With a brand new championship, they need big matches like Seth Rollins versus CM Punk to really establish it, and that for me will main event night 1. Cody Rhodes main eventing night 2. Unfortunately, Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley have been bumped by Seth Rollins and CM Punk. I can't imagine Becky Lynch will be too upset about that prospect. Let me know in the comments who you think will main event WrestleMania, and stick around to watch how I would book the Women's Royal Rumble.